I do agree that we have a propensity to eat foods with fat and sugar in them. However, I think that your reasoning behind the evolution of these desires may be flawed, and I don't think that this makes a very strong case for people's desires to eat fast food. However, first I would like to address the way that you lumped fatty and sugary foods together. We do crave both things, but their roles in our diets are distinct. Sugars and carbohydrates are more quickly metabolized and more easily turned into energy. Fats, while they do have more calories per unit weight than carbohydrates, they are more difficult for our body to metabolize. They are both sources of energy, but carbohydrates are our main source of energy and should be the biggest parts of our diets. As for storage of energy, whenever you have an overabundance of calories from any source, whether it be protein, carbohydrates, fats, or even alcohol, it can cause your body to store those extra calories as fat. Overall, though, I don't really think it's prudent to lump these two things into fatty and sugary foods into the same category when evaluating evolutionary forces on our food preferences. So, now I will talk about these evolutionary forces. 3,000 years ago, conditions were different in different parts of the world, and different people had different kinds of diets. There were agricultural societies, and there were hunter-gatherer societies. And in agricultural societies, you had people eating less meat and more plant-based stuff because they grew plants. They had a lot more carbohydrates in their diet and a lot less meat. But in hunter-gatherer societies, carbohydrates were more rare and meat was more the norm. So over time, though, everybody started out in a hunter-gatherer society. We didn't start farming. So when the shift occurred from hunting to agriculture, we had to adapt, and the result of this was shorter height because we were getting less meat. I think we got smaller in general, but you can kind of see today people whose ancestors more recently kind of made the shift have a harder time processing sugars and are more prone to getting diabetes. So I just kind of thought that the way that you were looking at the evolution, especially when you would talk about like 3,000 years ago, was kind of incomplete because it didn't really take into account any of this information. So while it may make sense that we crave fats and sugars in our diets because it's an important part of nutrition, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to crave McDonald's. Avocados and yogurt and all kinds of dairy foods are a great source of fats, and I don't really see why a greasy hamburger or French fries drenched in vegetable oil should be preferable to these options. And there are plenty of other ways to get sugar than fast food, and there are much better options. Fast food, of course, contains a lot of white flour and refined sugar, and is known for being calorie dense but nutrient poor. So I'm sure there is an explanation for why some people prefer fast foods, but I don't think that your argument sufficiently makes this case. If the goal is to get fats and sugars in our diets, then any kind of fats and sugars should suffice, and the fats and sugars that are more nutritious should even be preferable. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you think.